Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Todd Talk, courtesy of Oklahoma Baptist University Athletics, a weekly look at what's going on around Bison Hill with various coaches from the sports at Oklahoma Baptist University. This week, we welcome in head coach Jason Proctor with Oklahoma Baptist men's and women's tennis. And Jason, how are you?
Todd, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Pretty exciting times at Bison Hill. We'll talk more about the national award that your program just received yesterday with Kim Moosbacher. But first of all, what have you been doing with yourself during these times?
Well, I've stayed plenty busy. Honestly, just been working on recruiting, getting the budgets from this year, all finalized and getting prepared for next year with some scheduling and some things like that. So there's been plenty going on, and just continuing communication with our players during these unique times has obviously been a big priority. And everything that's changed for them going online, we just feel it's been important to do that. So that's kept us plenty busy.
Couple of recruiting questions, one of which, with the pandemic going on around the world, has that hampered at all your ability to recruit on an international level?
Actually, it's affected our ability to recruit American more than anything. Surprisingly, we don't currently travel to these foreign countries just a whole lot. We can do a little bit of that, but so far we do a lot of our recruiting from the office. Really, we watch recruiting videos, and we communicate with players through email and phone call and text message, things like that. So as far as communication and kind of getting a feel for what we're looking for internationally, it hasn't been affected that much. We've been able to carry on pretty normally in that respect. But it's the going to the local tournaments, in Oklahoma and the 5-state area that we typically like to do, and those types of things. And obviously the visits, we've had a harder time doing those. So it hasn't had a huge impact on our recruiting of international players.
What's the recruiting cycle like for tennis? Because as we said here and talk today, usually you would be getting ready for postseason tennis. And as far as your schedule is concerned, now you have nothing to do really but to focus on recruiting with, as you mentioned, a lack of tournaments actually going on.
Right. And that's been a challenge that we face, is just kind of figuring out. Really, I see it as an awesome opportunity, because this is something that we have some time that we don't normally have right now. And had we been in competition, traveling on the weekends and competing and really focusing on our players and our player development in these intense situations, then we're probably in postseason and just coming off of that right now. But so we've gotten a lot of those things done. I mean, we're getting pretty close with our teams for next year as far as recruiting goes. And then, we're starting to hopefully get a pretty good handle on next year's team, 2021, 2022. So, we feel kind of ahead of the game there, and that's been nice to be able to finalize a few things a little earlier than usual. Now we've got the summer months ahead, and quite frankly, I feel freed up to do some things that are just hard to do. I'm going to be working on kind of our fall training schedule and what that needs to look like. And there's so much planning to do about that. And also just kind of focusing on again, communicating with our players and saying, hey, here's some ideas for you this summer. We've been out for a couple months. Here's some ideas for you. This is what you can work on and what you can do. So we feel like there's a great opportunity for player development over the summer, even though there's not really, there's not much we can do, of course, with it being the summer months, but we feel freed up to develop our players, push things their way, and just be all the more prepared for fall training.
Okay, you talk about a more hands-on approach when you're recruiting in a 5-state area, American kids. How do you go about at your level with a limited recruiting budget to recruit the international kids that have been such a big, big part of OBU tennis success?
Yeah, that's a great question. Recruiting American, just my personal experience is almost more difficult. The international players, um, I think one thing honestly at this level, you mentioned our budget and OBU being Division II, that's something that we kind of battle. Most American kids grow up thinking they want to play Division I college tennis, and it's not until they get to be 17, 18 years old that reality hits them, and they go, oh, this is the level. Like Division II is that good. I mean, and Division III is that good. NAI. I mean, it's just all so competitive, and they don't. These kids, most of them don't realize that, and so as far as recruiting American, I really feel like you have to get your foot in the door. You've got to use your connections, and then you've got to get a guy like a couple of the ones that we have been able to get. We've been fortunate enough to get quite a few actually, but we bring in guys like Rhett Rollins and Aaron Brewer, which are just great kids to have. You love having them around. They're hard workers, and they're coming to us straight out of Tulsa, and next thing you know, they're everybody in the 5-state area, probably in the country. If I go to a junior tournament and I say OBU, they're going to go, oh yeah, Rhett Rollins, or oh yeah, Aaron Brewer, and that's the nice thing, and that to me is sort of how that can snowball, and so that's kind of the challenge is kind of making that snowball on top of each those kind of recruits snowball on top of each other, and hopefully next thing you know, you're really getting some good players from the local area, because they're out there. They are great players in the local area, but many of them have their sights set on another place, and if they know about OBU and they know what we have to offer here, I think it could we could really see an increase in the kind of talent we're recruiting locally. But as far as the internationals, they maybe have a little bit less of a bias towards the Division I. They're probably just a little more open-minded to begin with, and so we do get a lot of our best players. Quite honestly, you look at Kim Moosbacher and what she's been able to do coming from Germany. We do get a lot of our top of the lineup players from foreign countries.
Okay, I want to ask you about your personal experience. You've been at a very high level at the Division I. You played at Abilene Christian, but you were part of TCU's run late in the last decade. Does that give you an advantage with kids when you can sit down with them and talk to them about, look, I've been around a very good Division I program, but there's nothing wrong with being at Division II level. I mean, you have the insight now as a head coach and a former graduate assistant of both levels of tennis.
Yeah, thank you for asking, and I do feel very confident and very equipped to sort of bring what I've learned to OBU, and I think the kids see that, and I think they find that really valuable, because like I said, they want the best of the best, and they want to do it. They want to train like the best of the best, and so if I can demonstrate that, hey, I've been there and I've done some of those things, and if I haven't done it myself, then I've at least seen it done, and so I really think that it's something I can do here. That does, I believe, give us a recruiting edge, and just a kind of a buy-in edge with our players. But something that's I don't know if a lot of people know, but I actually came to Abilene Christian as a Division II player. My first year at Abilene Christian was we were still in Division II, and then after my freshman year, we transitioned to Division I. And so, really the biggest thing I learned, and maybe one of my biggest advantages I feel as a coach and feeling equipped, is that I've been able to experience firsthand that there's just not a big difference. Obviously there's the really, really good teams, the top 25, the top 50 in the country of Division One. Those are really, really good teams. But, going from D2 to D1 in my own playing experience, it just wasn't that different. And I think people don't understand that. So I think that's been an advantage for me to have seen some of that and to see both sides and experience both sides.
Yesterday, Jason, we learned about your senior Kim Moosbacher being named the ITA Senior National Women's Player of the Year. That's obviously a great accomplishment for her individually, but that's a selling point for your program going forward too, isn't it? When you go to talk to a kid, hey, we've had a National Player of the Year. It can be accomplished at a D2 level at Oklahoma Baptist.
Yes, and we're so excited for Kim, and we're proud of what she's been able to accomplish, and we do feel like that's a reflection on our program as a whole, because she did not come to OBU as the National Player of the Year. In fact, a lot of people we recruit are coming in with much higher rankings and results than she had coming to OBU. So she really took off. Her freshman year was great. I don't know if she mentioned that to you, but her freshman year was great. And then her sophomore, junior, it just kept snowballing, and it was, she improved immensely. I don't think she does it without, I really don't think she does it without our assistant coach, Madeline Schorlemer did so much to help Kim, and they had a great bond on the court, and I really think that worked for her, and that's something that you're going to see with many of our players. So she's doing a great job, and I like to think we invest in our players as much as anybody does, from a personal development and a player development standpoint. But I think Kim is the perfect model that we can go to these recruits and say, look, Kim came in as a player with this kind of ranking. I don't remember off the top of my head, but something that you would not expect. Oh, by her senior year, she's going to be able to be the player of the year. Nobody could have guessed that she would have seen that improvement. So it's a celebration for the whole program. It's a celebration for the whole program and what we do.
Yeah, Jason, she admitted yesterday, she said she was not near the tennis player when she came from Germany to the U.S. She said, I really took off at Oklahoma Baptist University and gave the Bison program a lot of credit for her success that ultimately culminated in the award she won yesterday. Do you wonder about her and maybe your program as a whole as to what could have been this year had the virus not hit? Because somebody like Kim was playing very, very well. She was 9-1 in singles. She'd won 5 of her last 6 in doubles and was just dominating in singles. She had 5 straight set victories. She was playing as well maybe as she had at any time in her career at Bison Hill.
Absolutely. I think she was probably playing as well as she's ever played. At the end, coming into March, probably playing as well as she's ever played. I think the end of the fall was really good. I don't think she dropped a set all fall. So, those are 2 of her best patches were sometime in the fall and then leading up to March just now. And yes, I absolutely just feel, it took a long time for it to hit me. It didn't even hit me for probably 3 or 4 weeks that it was over, and now waking up and we'd be in postseason right now. But Kim was a staple. We knew she was going to be competitive, and it was kind of icing on the cake for her to be as dominant as she was. We just needed her to be a solid number 1 player, and she was far more than that for us. But the youth we had, I think is the biggest thing. We had probably 3 or 4 girls that were either freshman or sophomore, and we saw a lot of potential there. And we were really feeling like they were just starting to turn the corner, and they finally kind of got their toes in the water and started to feel comfortable. And I think that's just such a big deal when you have a young team. So the areas where we weren't young, we felt like we were very solid in our level, because we had those returners who'd been in big matches and proved themselves. And then the younger ones, we knew that good things were coming with another 3 or 4 matches of experience for those young ones in the back of our line.
One of those underclassmen, you had 8 underclassmen on your roster as far as the women were concerned, was Moose Bacher's doubles partner, Dowling. Is she have a very, very bright future just as a sophomore and what she was able to accomplish this year over her next 2 years at OBU?
She has tremendous potential, and we knew that from day one. She had some flashes of really good tennis her freshman year. So, we knew it was coming. And then this year, obviously, with her and Kim playing really well in doubles together, she was very much on the rise, and we're just seeing improve. Her movement was getting better. Her returns were completely improved and completely different there. So it was just a matter. It was just a matter of time before that was going to turn around, and she has a very, very bright future, and I think she's going to be a heck of a player in her next 2 years of college tennis.
Jason Proctor, head tennis coach at Oklahoma Baptist University, our guest on episode 3 of Todd Talk. Jason, when you look at your women's record, it was 5-5. That looks average, but when you break it down further, it's anything but average. 3 of those 5 losses came to teams that at the time you played them were ranked nationally.
Yes. Yeah. We like to play a tough schedule. 5-5, it doesn't, that's why we're hoping that as the season goes along, it turns and it shows our true colors. I noticed that too. And it's like 5-5, it doesn't sound, but we were showing a lot of promise. Most of those matches we were feeling like we're very much in it, but those we played a lot of ranked teams, and we do that strategically to get some really tough non-conference matches. So it's not unfamiliar for us when we get on the court in April for conference matches. So I do think that was going to turn and it was going to start looking better.
When you look at your program this year, well, man, you've got some battle-tested seniors that you're going to lose and had their careers cut short. Moose Bacher, Galdi, you had LaForte, who's been a really good player for you. How difficult was it for you to go to them and say, I'm sorry, folks, this is it. We're done. Your careers are over? Because they meant so much to Oklahoma Baptist tennis.
Yeah, they did. I mean, really, these players laid the groundwork. I think you may have mentioned in your talk with Kim yesterday about how this class is kind of the class that carried us from NAIA to Division II, and really, to me, just looking back, I haven't been here forever, but looking back and seeing kind of this heat of players, this was a new level. The Galdi, LaForte, Moose Bacher, those players that we're losing, and Gratterall came in and had a huge impact. These were the players that laid the groundwork. So it was hard. Back then I was just hardly willing to accept it myself. And so I was saying, yeah, it's looking like it's probably over, but stay ready. I kept saying, but stay ready. And so that was, it was a tough process. It was tough for me as a young coach to know how to handle that. Not that anybody knew how to handle it, but it was hard. It was hard with players like that.
Jason, you were talking earlier about just talent locally in a 5-state region in Oklahoma, that there's a lot of quality Division II caliber talent. You found a diamond in the rough in Tulsa. I mean, Aaron Brewer, a freshman, had just a terrific year. His 6 wins were number 1 on a team that had 4 upperclassmen on its roster. So you have to be really, really pleased with the way Aaron blossomed in his first season.
Aaron, we love having Aaron around. He's a funny kid. He's lighthearted and just a good guy to have around the program. And he's incredibly talented. I really feel, if the question was, who do you think has the most room to improve? Aaron would have been one of the first people to come to mind. So that's how encouraging it is that he's done what he did his freshman year, and that he has so much potential ahead. When I started recruiting him, one of the first things I noticed was his talent, and it's hard. I watched him in high school tournaments, things like that. And you're trying to assess his level, and I'm just going like, I think he's good. Like, I think he's going to be really good, but it's hard because you can't see him against, the quality player that we play against. But I still had a feeling about him, and so far it's proved to be true, and so we'll see the next few years. But we're excited about Aaron.
Pretty young roster. You have 4 upperclassmen. Everybody else on your men's tennis team were underclassmen, including we talked about Brewer. But you have to like the future on the tennis courts for OBU men.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were showing promise with a good win early in the season against one of our non-conference rivals that we play often. Yep. It was good to get a win over Midwestern State, and but I think we show a lot of promise. I just think we added some guys. This was Aaron's first year. This was Bruno's first year with us at OBU. He was able to obviously bring in some experience from junior college tennis, but I think the future looks really bright for us. And I think more than anything, it's just belief. It's like, we've seen the level now, and we know what it feels like to get a win over a really good team. And so we're going to be less afraid. I just think that our players are going to be less afraid in the future and really going to own it when they go out there against a very highly ranked team, a highly ranked national team.
I was going to ask you about that one over Midwestern State, because that was one of 5 you had. They were ranked 15th at the time you beat them. I mean, it's great now, but eventually Jason Proctor and his program want to be beating those people every day and not saying, hey, that's the high water mark of the season.
Exactly. We were excited because it shows what we're going to do. But end result and my goals and the goals for this program, we want to be the best. We want to be the best in the country. And we believe we're going about it in a way that's competitive with anybody out there. And then we believe that the results and the win-loss column is going to start to show that. But that's exactly right. We want to be the best team in the country, and we want to push it to nationals and go all the way and win a national championship. And then, wins like this, 15th ranked teams, we hope to make those wins commonplace. Absolutely.
Of course, you leave a good job. I mean, you were a volunteer assistant at TCU, but as I mentioned earlier, you were there when the Horned Frogs won the regular season and the postseason tournament championship, and they let you wear a bunch of different hats. For a young coach, how invaluable was that experience for you at that time?
It was amazing. Gosh, and it's just funny. It's been 2 or 3 years now since I was in that position, and looking back at what I was getting and how thankful I am, because I come up almost every day. I face a challenge or a circumstance that I feel like that position at TCU really prepared me to handle. And the experience that I got on the court and the way that those coaches trusted me with some really big responsibilities, it almost took me by surprise when I got there, how willing they were to trust me and to give me big responsibilities. And it's proved to be incredibly valuable, and to work with, just some of those players were really good and managing them and helping. It doesn't really matter what the level of the player is when you get to them. What matters is how does the end result compare to when you started with them. And so, it was a great challenge to try to work with players like that and help them to improve. But the experience was incredible, and I just wouldn't trade it, and it helps me every day.
Okay, when I say this, don't take offense, all right? Because I don't really know what one looks like. But you're a ukulele player. I would not have pictured you to be a ukulele player. How did you pick up that?
Well, actually, that's a great story as to how I pick up the ukulele. Previous head coach at OBU, Nick Papik, we were great friends before we came to OBU together. Nick obviously brought me here once he was able to come to OBU. He brought me with him. I met Nick many years ago when we started training together in tennis, and we just hit it off. And the first time I ever met Nick Papik, came to stay at my house for a tennis tournament. And I'd never met Nick before in my life, but he showed up with a tennis bag on one shoulder and a ukulele in the other hand. And it was like something, the light bulb going on in my head. I was like, that's what I want. I want to play the ukulele. And so he kind of taught me. And
did you have any interest or musical background prior to that meeting with Nick?
Not at all. Not at all. I am no musician, and that's true to this day. But it was a great size to travel. It only has 4 strings for a guy like me. 4 strings versus the 6-string guitar. I mean, that was just a great learning opportunity for me. So I just saw a lot of green lights, and anything I can take on the road with me and entertain myself is a good move. So no musical expertise at all whatsoever.
That's a great story. The next time we do this, we're both going to be better prepared. You're going to play us a little song on the ukulele. How's that?
I'll come prepared with a few of my favorites.
That's awesome. You're used to playing with strings just on a tennis racket, right? So.
Right. It's hardly different. It's everything that I use is strings. So yeah.
Enjoyed the visit today, Jason. Great work this past season. Congratulations on Kim and all you're doing with the program, and we'll look forward to seeing future success from you and the Bison.
Thank you, Todd. Very nice speaking with you. Thanks for spending some time with me.
Jason Proctor, the head men's and women's tennis coach at Oklahoma Baptist University, is our guest here on episode 3 of Todd Talk. Coming up next week, we'll talk with the legend himself, Ford Master, the head track and field coach on Bison Hill. That's next week. For Jason Proctor, I'm Todd Miller. Thanks for tuning in for episode 3 of Todd Talk, a weekly presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University Athletics.